Okay, well, hi again. Today we are getting tactical. Why boring process management is actually your secret weapon for better deals. So let's talk about how great process really bridges sales and tech. And what are some of the challenges that we often see? I know on the sales side, I'm constantly pushing that the CRM is up to date, all the data is there. So, like that we make it accessible to everyone so that you know how an opportunity is progressing through the funnel. Michael, from your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, good process is about discipline. And I think being disciplined is a really important work characteristic. I'm not sure we always use the right language, but I just think discipline is a really good way of thinking about it. Over the last, really, it's over the last 15 years, but especially in the last five. On the engineering side, we are we have a lot of visibility into our performance. So we should be able to communicate with some good confidence our velocity from idea to prod. We should be able to communicate bugs that we're creating and resolving. Um, we should be able to demonstrate what our time to roll back is. All of these different metrics that show what our overall quality is. And this has come out of a combination of agile adoption and, continuous integration, continuous deployment, right? So that we have these CI/CD patterns that we follow. Um, I think also QA engineering, which is, a field that's exploded in the last 10 years. Now, these are all ways that if we have a disciplined process and a disciplined way of doing our work, I can communicate to my partners reliable patterns that they can expect. So if I say 3 months and I have a demonstrative history of delivering every in the time frame that I say, then people are going to trust the estimates that I provide. When I join a company, the first thing I try to do is ensure that my first five proposed estimates that I hit them. Not I'm always trying to hit them, but especially in the beginning, I got to build trust, and so I've been thinking a lot lately about how that's been perceived by my partners. And I think it's mostly been perceived well. I would think that if they had a criticism, they might say that I'm careful to communicate exactly what we're going to get, and they don't get more. They only get what I promise in the time frame, hopefully, that I promise, right? And that all sounds good, but a lot of times people want more, or they want it a little bit faster than I can do it, and I just think showing people patterns of delivery by leveraging processes and metrics associated with delivery lets the other people in the organization focus on their lane essentially, rather than coming to me and saying, well, why can't it be faster? This is easy. Shouldn't you just do this and that? And I'm fine with taking that feedback, but I would prefer that they were comfortable with my ability to communicate estimates. But instead of saying that, they were saying, hey, we have another idea for this feature, or we know that in the phase two, you're going to get to this, or we see a problem with a customer that is going to impact the feature that we've asked for. Like that, I want all of that for sure. And I think showing people that there's a process that they can count on that has expected outcomes allows them to focus on the business and on the revenue.
Right. And yeah, and you know what, Michael? I mean, it plain and simple, process is going to equal, greater visibility, which is going to equal better, faster decisions for all parties. So I know I used to be a big fan of having like RAG reports so that you would get a red, amber, green report on the status of a project, but it would be high level, like an executive summary that we could share with the sales team and the sales leadership and other leadership within the organization so that you have a status update as to how the project is progressing. Again, no surprises, over communicating. The maintaining of CRMs or project, boards should not be optional. That this should be the heartbeat of collaborating between the different functions within the company.
Yeah. I mean, the CRM part is a great example because I like getting anecdotal feedback from my sales teams on what's working and not working, but I would prefer that they were also updating their CRM to show me how often they're meeting with clients, what the topics they were meeting with them, what the follow-ups or the takeaways are. Because again, when we go to a prioritization meeting, that's the ammunition. That is the backup that you need. There again, I'm going to stay in my lane in engineering. You're going to come to me and you're going to say, I met with these 10 clients. They all said that this feature is an important one. And I say, we're not working on that. And we don't even plan to work on that one. And my sales partner should say, okay, can we be flexible and pivot right now? We are hearing the same thing from all our customers. And my answer obviously is going to be yes, but just think about what that interaction looks like. I have meaningful feedback. It's documented. How do we solve? Rather than, you know, sort of a loud room of people saying, oh, well, heard this and I heard that, and I've been in that room. It's changed a lot. Most companies have gotten better about this, but 20 years ago, when things were just very different, our ability to be transparent was different. I would have people in my own organization who did not have my back, who said, I think that our clients don't want what you're building. And I would say, and this is, again, it was a long time ago, you think so? Or you met with them and so? And also, the technology is at this maturity. It's not beyond this maturity. And the things that you might be describing are great ideas, but they're beyond the maturity of our technology stack. Right. And so these things have to be, contextualized in a way that are meaningful. Otherwise, you're building stuff because people have a good idea and I like a good idea, but I prefer a metrics based idea or a data based idea, and unfortunately, at the C level, we see this a lot where somebody will come in the room and be like, I was at a conference and this is the thing we should be doing. And I just think as a leader, you have to realize the power of your participation. And I'm really careful about this, especially if I'm building stuff. Like I always say to my teams, like I'm very persuasive, but it doesn't mean I'm right. And we shouldn't just do it because I say so. And I think in the C-suite, a lot of times we have to remind people, like, if you tell a junior team that you think they should be working on something else, they're gonna do that, and they might not realize there are processes in place to prevent that. And so we all have to be on board to say, okay, there's a process for this. We need to change the scope. Great. Let's just meet about it. Let's change it. Let's do a great job.
Right, and actually, I think we discussed it in the first video that we talk about, like, the importance of transparency. I think it creates an environment where not only do you respect each other's position as far as what you're tasked to do, but increase that awareness, right? So you have that open dialogue where you understand truly what the clients are asking for. And on the engineering side, you can talk about, what's the impact if we were to shift the priorities around. So then it becomes an educated, not an emotional decision on the direction that the product needs to take. So, I mean, leadership should be insistent on having good communication, good process, good discipline across the board.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I just think the ability to communicate with metrics, it just changes things. If your willingness to be like, we have information to help make this decision, let's use it. And the processes allow us to have good information and the discipline. I just think that companies do a better job when they have structure and people perform better because they know what they're working on.
Exactly. Okay, so in summary, our call to action is a true or false statement. Does process kill creativity? So if you can comment below, and of course, we're not going to tell you what we think, but we would love to start a lively discussion.